happen less and less, and I think it's because the pros start to predict it. You see the early lightnings or the early nados to nado in, whatever it is, but Aslan may be feeling the pressure even though he's not here on the stage. He goes for the most predictable play in the book. Lucas calls his bluff, and he takes game number one.
Decks very similar between those two as well. You had the lightning and the EQ as the difference, but other than that, pretty much right down the line, Lucas comes out on top.
And Aslan was getting great value with that EQ over and over. You could see Lucas struggling to find a place for his fisherman, or excuse me, his hunter and his archer queen. You look at the numbers there, Lucas 55%.
With not picking sweep, but I switched it on events.clashroyale.com, got that sweep prediction, and after seeing all that confidence. So
yeah, I mean, really, you know, we like to talk trash to each other, but as long as you're getting the rewards, that's really what it comes down to. Aslan taking a quick sip of tea, Lucas looking around. He's got to be feeling good, because that game really looked like it was going off the rails for a minute for Lucas, and making that play is exactly what he needed to do. And I will say, out of most of the competitors here, I'm not going to speak and say this 100%, but I saw Lucas grinding all day, all night, every single day, all week long.
Well, let's see if that pays off in a clean 2-0, or if we're going to go to game number 3. Let's jump in right now. Good luck out on both sides from these two guys. You know, there are a lot of Clash Royale rivalries, if you will, but I've not heard any rumors of this being one in particular.
Yeah, they haven't met each other this year, at least in competition. I'm sure they have on ladder and in challenges.
So this might be Mortar Miner out of Aslan, which is one of his best decks. He usually plays it with Queen.
And you see the snowball coming down because he doesn't have a log, I believe.
Very curious to see if Lucas, and with the Mother Witch, might be running lightning.
And he was to protect that Mother Witch. That's a great play there on the Ewas. Then he goes hyper-aggressive opposite lane with that Mighty Miner. And this is going to be a very interesting mind game with that ability.
And that switch to keep the Mother Witch alive.
She's still on the board from the start of the game.
Wow. And now Ram Rider behind. And
Aslan knows. He knows.
And then, so it is Mortar Miner. Aslan usually runs it with Queen, with a bit of a switch here with the Mighty Miner. Ram Rider, for the first time maybe her entire deployment, doesn't connect on tower.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen that often. Aslan does give out the well played there. 1697 remaining. And I looked on the clock there. I don't know when he placed the Mother Witch, but a minute of gameplay had gone by, and she was still on the board. Meanwhile, Lucas up there doing a little dance.
Little Inferno Dragon cycle for Lucas. Miner to the low spot on the outside. Pretty sure he's not facing NATO, so goes to a spot that's a bit less predictable.
Just decides to eat the damage there and start a new push from the back. Mighty Miner cycle on the right-hand side by both competitors.
The run for Lucas in qualifier events has been nothing short of astounding the last 2 years. The only two-time monthly final winner in 2021, and then second place at 3 golden ticket events here in 2022.
But a win here means so much to Lucas Rich. He's always struggled at World Finals. Last year he ended in that 32nd spot. I believe his record in Worlds, I think you said, was 0-7 or something like that. And you can see right now, just picking up this game, what it does for his confidence. He's already dancing on stage. He's got to be feeling good. And it's always about getting that first one, right?
Once you get that one in the books, it's just smooth sailing from there. Of course, anyone can suddenly find themselves on the bad end of a moment. That's how Clash Royale is. But at the moment we're in right now, it's 1979 to 1697 with Lucas in control.
Goes Mighty Miner opposite lane there as an MK works down that right-hand side. Mighty Miner to protect the Musketeer as well. He was to help with the Mighty Miner and the Skellies. Great play there from Lucas again. That aggressive high Electro Wizard.
And that Ram Rider charges up for the connection as well, so opening the lead significantly here as we transition to the sudden death.
And doesn't have to take the mortar shot, excuse me, the MK leap as well. And honestly, it doesn't really matter because we know that Lucas should be focusing on that left tower. But we talk about confidence, it does matter.
And that mortar does get a connection. No second shot there, but the first one is significant. 481 now. So trying to reclose that gap is Aslan. Miner tries to go for some fancy footwork here, but that's not going to do what he wanted. The connection doesn't do it again, and now down to 360
tower. That right tower is gone, baby. That is it. Our first 2-0 of the day. Lucas picking up one of his first ever set win at World Finals.
And what a win it was. Clean, under control, confident, blowing kisses to the crowd. Lucas X Gamer with a statement here early on.
I love to see it. I love when hard work pays off. And like I said, Lucas has been grinding all day, all night. And the interview with Lucas, I can't wait to hear it. AC, what do we got?
Congratulations on that awesome opening set. How does it feel to start it off with a victory?
I mean, it's amazing. I haven't won a single 1v1 set the past few years, even though I did like very well. So it's probably the icebreaker that I need for this competition.
Now that you've won this opening set, do you think you are the player that everybody has to watch out for?
I mean, we are all here for a reason, so I will do my best. I'll keep doing what I have done all year. So watch out, I'm here.
He is here. I love it. Back to the desk.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Let's go ahead, take a look at the decks from this one. And this first game, it's the near mirror match, RG versus RG, but it all, of course, came down to one play.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about that fisherman block at the end of the game, it's the only play that has to happen for against Aslan. You know, it's one of those things where if that's the only play, you need to think 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, because you have to give credit to your opponent in Lucas X Gamer. You know he's going to do exactly what he needs to close out that game. And then in game number 2, it was really just kind of domination from beginning all the way to end. When a Mother Witch gets that much value early in the game, especially early in single elixir, it is near impossible to come back from it, especially against someone as talented as Lucas.
Well, it's so hard for Aslan to get value out of those cycle cards because of that Mother Witch.
Yeah.
And then the heavier troop matchup to matchup, just difficult for him there, and Lucas punished him for it.
And most all mortar decks these days do run a couple of those swarmy cards that will feed a Mother Witch. I love what Lucas came out with in game number 2. Juicy J, you were gone for a moment, you're back. How you feeling about this matchup?
This was a very fascinating matchup to watch. I think, like you guys talked about, now that he's won this first match, he's going to be having a lot of momentum. We're going to be telestrating over the first match of the best of 3, the RG, and let's get straight into it. So, Archer Queen ability getting a lot of value here, obviously. He blazed the Giant Skelly a little bit late. It would have been nice to protect the Archer Queen, and then obviously Lucas making a huge mistake preventing the pull on the RG with the Fisherman. An interesting pre-lightning from Jen, and now here comes the counter push though. So he goes for the prediction. He goes for the prediction here like you guys talked about already, and that was the game changer. RG getting that final shot, and lightning does enough. And now he just needs to cycle back to one more Earthquake, one more log, and that was it.
Juicy, is there any better defense that should have come down for against Aslan, or was he kind of just painted into a corner?
That's a great question. Honestly, maybe you predict the prediction, you predict that Fisherman pull, and you play your Fisherman down low on the right-hand side. Obviously, you're not going to be able to pull the RG away from the tower, but the Fisherman's stun, when it pulls something in, could have been enough to prevent one of those RG shots.
Maybe a pre-lightning on top of the Fishboy? What are your thoughts?
Well, that would have been next level, right? If
yeah, that would have been insane.
You know that's coming. I mean, the prediction on prediction on prediction, that's the game we're trying to play, but you have to take into account that you're playing in front of a huge crowd
yes.
with the bright lights. Like, you take that risk and it doesn't pay off, that feels almost worse than if it does.
I think the interesting point that you made early on in the set, too, is Aslan loves to come out with RG in Game 3. It's kind of been his closer, if you will.
Yes.
So he decides to open with something that's very, very strong. He ends up in a mirror matchup against, again, this is Lucas's favorite win condition while he was qualifying, but he didn't have a lot of success with it. But Lucas can play almost any deck out there. But then in game number 2, I do believe you 100% know Aslan's going to run mortar in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that was a situation where he had to make that play, and of course, Lucas just one step ahead. And it's interesting, we've talked about the difference of not having coaches working with you directly between game 2 and on to game 3 as well.
Yeah.
So far, we have seen a lot of success from players who've adjusted well. We saw Sweep with this insane pick in game number 3, and then Lucas here, just a sharp pick for game number 2. You talk about painting into a corner, that was adding 4 walls to a room with no doors.
100%. And one of the things that these players have been doing, obviously they've been practicing picking decks on their own all week long, and then they go and they talk to their coaches after that best-of-3 set and go, what should I have done differently here? How should I have changed things up? And I think that's a really, really important thing. The other thing is they're going into the game, they're building their decks in the duel mode, and then they're copying them from there, putting it in the regular deck mode so that they are making sure to not repeat any cards. Now, I'm gonna knock on all of the wood that I can. We don't want any more repeated cards at World Finals, but that is definitely a risk that can happen when you only got 2 minutes and there's this crowd in front of you.
Oh, most certainly. We've seen it before. Hopefully don't see that again, but what we are ready for is our next matchup. Joshua, what do we got?
Our first player doesn't have the same list of achievements that everybody else does, but he has the swagger, which would make you wonder. He is Dominic, aka Doom.
Hello everyone, my name is Dominic, aka Doom. I am Bosnian, currently living in Germany, and this will be my first time competing on stage. I am very excited. Clash Royale is my dream hobby, and I am very happy that I was able to achieve something like this. I want to say good luck to all my opponents and see you in the arena.
Our second player, he's the winner of the first golden ticket. He's the reason why Space Station Gaming won the spring season of 2020. He is Samuel Busotto.
I started playing Clash Royale and I got better and better, and now I'm here in the World Championship, and that's crazy. The biggest moment for me so far has been when I got the golden ticket. I want to win this game.
And those of you in the know are probably aware this is one of the most anticipated matchups of the day. You know, you talk about bad blood. These two have been at each other. The trash talk before this one, absolutely epic. And I know the winner today is going to celebrate pretty hard.
Oh, I am 100% sure that that is going to be a very uncomfortable walk away from the stage for whoever does not pick up that 2 games in this set. Yeah, we've all been here for a week. It's been a lot of fun, but also when you're here for a week with the people that you're competing for $1 million against, there might be a little bit of bad blood. And let's hop into the very first matchup here between Sam and Doom.
You know, on paper, Sam is supposed to be the favorite here, but there's a lot of X factors in this matchup. Sam has been talented for a very long time, but Doom coming off a recent #1 finish on ladder, and of course, working very, very hard. And if there's ever been any question about Samuel Busotto, it is not skill at all. Talent is 100% there. The question is always been work ethic, especially as of late. We haven't really seen much of him since winning his golden ticket, and word is he tends to practice friendly battles, not as much duels, while Doom is totally pumped up and has a target on Sam's back.
Well, it's one of those things where when you win that golden ticket that early on in the year, you're like, I don't need to do my homework. I don't need to do my homework. I got months. I got almost a whole year to get there. But then all of a sudden, July rolls around the corner. You haven't put in the work. We'll see if that's the case or not. Sam going Mortar here early in game #1. Doom with Bowler, maybe Loon, Freeze.
Most likely. It does have that feeling. Of course, he could be going with Graveyard potentially, but probably Bowler, Loon, Freeze. And it's definitely sort of in his wheelhouse. He has a few decks that he relies on, tends to play Comfort. He does practice this deck, but you know, it feels like he's going for something tricky here in game #1.
Yeah, and that's probably the best way to go. You know, he is a guy that loves to play in the skies. He's known for being a lava player, but lava is not super great in the meta. And also, you don't want to play what you're known for the most. Let's still get to the skies with that Loon, but I'll tell you, this matchup, if Sam plays it correctly, he shouldn't struggle too much.
Yeah, nice high mortar, easy control, and now flooding right under that right-hand side.
And this is a beautiful moment of min-max, Rich. He takes one shot from the Loon to take that right-hand tower. I love it, and that is a next-level play.
Yeah, wow, down to 144 already. Doom on his back heels very, very early.
And that is a better minor placement when you're trying to avoid that Inferno Dragon damage.
Sam taking control of the game pretty firmly here with that tower down. Minute 15 remaining for Sam to clutch up game number one, $84,500. So far won in his career, and now just a few minutes away from adding another 10 on top of the 20 he already earned here at World Finals.
I love that play so much to go, I can take that balloon shot. He's not gonna freeze because he doesn't have the elixir to defend. So he knows it's not gonna be a tower trade situation. We'll see as Doom pours it on the left-hand lane. Mortar comes down to defend. AQ not there. Poison will be enough to mitigate most of this damage. One Loon shot should come in. Yeah, there it is.
And just not quite enough to get the freeze down in time. You saw the elixir for Doom just stretching, reaching to get there, but couldn't quite make it happen. And now 30 seconds left. It's do or die in game number one.
And I love that pull there with the miner, making sure that bowler doesn't get on top of the Arch Queen, combined with that bar barrel. Fire Spirit to still distract for the AQ, but now probably a freeze gonna come in, or excuse me, a poison gonna come in again defensively.
That poison with the slow back in action, definitely important here against the Loon. Now the question is, can he get around? Freeze is in. 5 seconds, not going to be enough.
There
and
it
the
is.
thanks
And there's
from
the
Samwell.
BM. You know it's going to happen. Not even looking at each other on stage. And finally at the end, you see the eyes come up from Samwell going, hey man, you've been messing with me all week? Here I am in game number one.
Yeah, the thanks might be the dirtiest one of all those different text options there. Thank you, you gave it to me, and I took it.
There was also that tweet from AC earlier this week talking about how when he says well played, he means it, but he doesn't think his opponent does. Sam definitely meant that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thank you indeed. And now we go on to game number two, and this is where I think we start to see Sam open up a little bit. Went with a fun minor play there, but now in game number two, bowler freeze. We'll talk about that in a moment. First, let's look at the action from game number one.
And I know what it's gonna be. I know what it's gonna be. Here it is, the Loon coming across the bridge. The mortar up high. Loon is raged up. Sam knows this game like the back of his hand. What does he do? I know what's in cycle, and I know what is not. Valkyrie at the bridge, crossing over, guards behind. I'm happy to take this Loon drop. I'm happy to take the death damage. You know what else I'm happy to take? Your right-hand tower. Beautiful plays there from Sam to start this out. 144 remains after minute and 30 of gameplay.
Yeah, and you see Doom there just not on the other side of it. Sam has the advantage, and Sam sees NATO out, which opens up so many options.
I mean, Sam just has the world in front of him at this moment just because, and looking here really quickly at the predictions, yes, Sam is the favorite on paper, but Doom has been feeling really confident. As you said, he's been playing very, very well as of late. He's got a 100% win rate against a couple of the great pros that we have in this tournament, including Morton and Pandora. Now, it's obviously only in competition in 2022, but because we haven't seen a lot of Sam, he's also got a 100% win rate against Mugi, Arden, and Lucas, which is just showing he is on a run.
Let's go ahead and jump into it. Game number two on its way right now. With NATO out and Sam
competitive, still not a popular card by any means, but it is definitely. But now with the X, you don't have to worry about the spell power as much. You don't want to get that Magic Archer fireballed or poisoned off the board, whereas that X, he just has a little bit more HP as Sam's cannon cart gets on top of that left-hand tower, and that stood Doom right up.
And look at this, going opposite lane with the Royal Ghost as well. Sam has to put up some defense. There you go, the Executioner to just clean all of that up.
And the look over at it, Doom getting talked to by our referees. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but damage does come in for Doom here on that right-hand side with those guards. But Sam in the lead still.
Golden Knight down in front of the Executioner. Oh my word.
Dom repeated a card.
No way.
Dominic repeated a card.
No way.
Lumberloon Freeze usually has Baby D.
Unbelievable.
We just talked about not having a repeated card, and now we have it. He repeated his guard. Well, once. Congrats! After a week of trash talk from Doom, the fastest 2-0 that we've seen here at our World Finals so far. Let's see what Sam has to say. We're going to the stage.
Sam, well, congratulations, opening round victory. How do you feel?
Samuel, como você se sente ganhando no primeiro round?
Sinto ótimo, a melhor experiência que eu já tive na minha vida. Vamos!
I feel great. It's the best experience I've ever had in my life.
I could tell that energy just from his statement. Congratulations again, and back to the casters.
I don't even know what to do with that right now. You talk all that trash all week. You know, maybe it's just the weight of expectations in that moment. Repeating the card, unbelievable. Now, one big difference here.
Yeah, I know. You got to say it.
He stays in. He's not out yet.
Yes, he is.
He's lower bracket.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about this deck.
Oh, yeah. Also, that's the craziest part. Let's take a look at the deck. So here, we'll talk about this first matchup here. The Bowler Loon Freeze, the great play with the Archer Queen, the Mortar, the Poison, great control from Samuel Basoda.
Yeah, 100%. You see that Valkyrie push in, the guards behind. I guess I misunderstood our producer there. I thought he said guards. He said cards. And I don't remember seeing guards in game number 1. But as you can see, this is what happens. Sam outplays him with that aggressive play. But then you go into game number 2. There is the NATO. There is the NATO.
Oh, this is the same two decks from game number 1.
He repeated a card, ladies and gentlemen. We know that it happened.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that second deck here in a minute. But you and I, if we get to see it, we saw it afterwards.
Yeah.
The little secret there.
Hog Rider.
Hog Rider was in that Lava Hound deck.
It was a Lava Hog Rider deck. Now, I will say, during practice this week, we saw that change-up of 2.6 where they take out Hog and put in Lava Hound. But this was absolutely crazy to see Lava Hound plus Hog Rider. Meanwhile, you are also repeating a card.
Yeah, just craziness all over the board. Who knows? You know, he was maybe trying to select the deck here, got mixed up a little bit. That's just one of those moments where you got to feel maybe being down 1 just got to him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest thing about when you talk a lot of trash and then you drop the ball early on is you feel that pressure magnify on yourself because you go, I have to back this up because it's not just about the game now, it's also about pride. And that's one of the things that maybe you don't want to put on the line when you're playing against someone that's already won almost $100,000 in their career. They've been a champion before. They won the first golden ticket. Samuel's very respected in the community in terms of his gameplay, and he just showed us why.
Now, let's be clear. This was also Lava up against an Executioner deck. Clearly, there was some preparation from Samuel's part. He had a good matchup, or at least a fairly decent matchup up to that point, so who knows if it would have changed anything, but Sam was definitely in the pocket.
So it sounds like now there may be something going on backstage with what just happened, so we're going to get to the bottom of exactly what that is before we start moving on through the day. As you guys saw, we thought we heard guards, it wasn't guards, we thought we heard card, and then you saw that we didn't get to see deck number 2, so not 100% exactly what has happened yet. And if he did not repeat a card, this is a very fascinating conversation because Sam just got to celebrate like he just won a 2-0 victory.
Yes, indeed.
What does that do to the mentality of both of you? Doom starts to feel like he has an extra life. He just got given an extra life at World Finals, maybe, or Sam, he gets, when you feel that good about winning and you have to reel it back in and dial back into the game. Because as you guys know, when you win a game or a match today, you get $10,000 more and you don't have to play again till tomorrow, which is a really big part of this equation.
And of course, we don't know yet exactly what the conversation is right now. So as soon as we have more information,
I'm sure they can tell.
Yeah, as soon as we have more information, you'll have the information as well. So hold your horses on that one. Man, I mean, we go back to game number 1, right? I don't know if we have the game 1 deck available. If we do, we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Go back to game number 1, that Bowler Loon Freeze choice. Not one of Doom's primary decks, right? Yeah. And then we see him going Lava in game number 2. You know, he typically plays Lava Miner, Lava Loon, or occasionally Lava Clone. Yes. So certainly, you know, taking that first one out, maybe the Lava pick in game number 2 was him going, you know what, you've already seen me play a lot of pieces of Lava. Maybe you think I won't do it, plus this is my deck.
Yeah, you know, but now we've seen twice in a row where their opponents are going, we know what you're absolutely best with or what your comfort is, and they're looking for that matchup when they're down 1. We saw it last time against Aslan, and then again here with Sam. I mean, Sam hasn't been practicing a lot apparently, but I wonder how much he's actually practiced with Executioner. Now, he knows the mechanics of that deck because of how popular it was with Magic Archer and Ewiz, but you swap in that Exy, and I really think that is a great snipe because of the HP specifically. You can't get spelled off the board easily.
Definitely not. And I do want to take a moment to point out that if Basoda though, does end up winning here, that's 3 members of that 2020 Pain Gaming team, the squad that was assembled for the fall split after not being in CRL together. That's a few members there who are coming through.
Yeah, and you know, if this match is actually over with, we are only a third of the way through the day. We've still got 4 more in the upper bracket, and then as we know, 4 elimination matches. And you travel all the way across the world. You've been here for a week, adjusting to the clock, grinding all day long, playing on internet, playing on different devices, and you gotta think, what does that do to their mentality when you are in that lower bracket? How much more pressure do you think they're gonna feel in their next game than they felt in their first one?
And let me go ahead and correct there. Sam was not on that Pain Gaming team, as I just said that. Just Brazilian and friends with Lucas Gamer. So, you know, there's a lot of craziness happening right here. We did not expect to see a repeated card, but as
well, Rich, you and I have never made a mistake in our whole career.
No, none, not at all. Not
They've
at all.
loved us since 2018.
For sure, with 100% the whole way through. Man, it's one of those things where you talk about the pressure here at a moment like this when, of course.
We have it too.
Yeah, we have a little bit as well. We are getting some word right now that there was not a repeated card, and we're going to pick this up from game number 2. So it's still 1-0 Samwell. It's still those first 16 cards out, 8 on each side, but we are going to continue from game number 2. Wow, unbelievable.
That is, I'm literally speechless right now. You have 2 people that are coming off of a very interesting emotional roller coaster over the last 5 minutes. Samuel thinks that he's won, he's walked away, he doesn't have to show up again until tomorrow. And then Doom on the other side of it, probably going, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, I did not repeat a card, or it's not, you know, like what are you doing here?
Well, the interesting thing now is they're going to go and get 2 minutes to build decks. The surprise that Doom had built into that, the Hog Rider that we saw as part of that Lava Hound, that's gone.
Play it.
Now, now here's the thing. It still might not have made a difference. It still might have been locked down with the counter snipe by Samwell, but that whole pop there going, hey, you've been shutting down this Lava Hound, boom, Hog Rider opposite lane, that's no longer there.
Well, and also you talk about the snipe that Sam had come in, and now that's no longer effective. Doom getting kind of a break here because that wasn't the matchup I think he wanted. Sam had a lot of pieces to deal with the Lava Hound, with a Hog Rider, and now neither of their choices are available anymore because you can't just run it back.
Or you can.
Or
play
you
the
can.
Mind game.
That's right.
Play
you
the
can't
mind
play
game.
the mind
Go ahead
game.
and do it again. That's, I mean, look, that's a call you have to make right now is do they anticipate?
But they don't have their coaches.
But they don't have their coaches.
You know?
Go ahead and figure it out.
Yeah, I know. This is why in order to win that $250,000, you truly do have to be the best in the world. You got to play through all of these crazy factors. And of course, this is not what we expected in this matchup, but I think it's still going to be a good one. There's a lot of bad blood, like you said. There's all of this hullabaloo going on, but they get to go back into game number 2 here in just 1 minute.
So here's the question now. Who takes the bigger emotional impact? Sam thinking he had won and being locked down, or Doom with this crazy roller coaster he's been on?
I got to go Sam. I feel like Sam had a better matchup in match number 2. I felt like he kind of had his number, and I felt like Doom has now had a lot of time to not only recollect himself, but be correct about a monumental argument that he's probably having with League Ops. So he gets to come back and go, look, I get to come back, I get another life, I get to change up my deck, Sam's snipe is no longer in play, and then this leads us to so many question marks in game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, all over the board. What's their mentality like? Where do you go? If you don't go from here, right, then where do you go in your deck pool? You have a plan built for game 1 and game 2, and you kind of play on the fly in game number 3. Well, then now do you kind of think about what you might have gone for game number 3 and slot that back in? Do you craft from scratch again?
It's just not the same conversation as it used to be when it was in teams format, because dual mode, when you are on this stage, when you don't have your coach or your analyst, it's kind of like starting a ball or a snowball at the top of a hill, and then based off of what it hits along the way, that is the only course it can go down. So you saw what happened in game number 1, what was played, what is available, what they played, and that deck 2, it's not like an accident that those are the decks that came out. So this is rebuilding from the ground, except for Sam has 1 in the pocket. So I still have to give him the advantage, even though I do think Doom is in a better mental spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably right. I mean, look, if there's one thing I will say, Sam did look sharp, looked very, very sharp. And I might be eating my words here in terms of the preparation side of things. Sam looked dialed in. So the question is, can you remain dialed in, right? What are you thinking about besides just gameplay?
Well, I think the most important thing, Rich, is you cannot be upset. If you're Samuel Basoto, you need to calm whatever you might be feeling, the frustration, the anger, even if it's still the excitement from you playing so well in game number 1 and then having that situation situation in game number 2, all of that needs to subside. You need to dial back in and just go right back to why you're here, why you won the first golden ticket, or why you qualified through that stage 5, right?
Yes, for sure. And for those of you who are following along on event.clashroyale.com and got your votes in, if you haven't yet, well, now's still a little bit of time, I think, to lock those ones in. And maybe some of you are you just lost out on some plays. Maybe you're sitting there going, "Yes, I get my second chance here at getting those big ones."
Yeah, it's not often when you get to kind of gamble for something and then they go, "Well, actually, we were wrong. So we're gonna give you another shot." So for all you guys that maybe picked Doom, probably very, very happy whether you're at home or here in the arena. And what an incredible arena we have here. It's filled with some of the biggest names in Clash Royale. You and I are both a little starstruck, of course. We see people that we've talked about for year after year after year. And also old friends, whether they be casters or people that we used to cast for back in the day.
Sure, yeah. Some of the biggest names in Clash Royale here. Champions of old and maybe champions of new. Of course, we have 16 people, one of whom will hoist a trophy this time. Of course, we do have one person who has a chance at repeating that championship in Moogie.
I mean, I just can't even fathom what that would be like to win back-to-back world championships. So let's take a look here at the bracket, just to remind you guys for the action that's coming for the rest of the day here, and of course to remind you of what has already happened.
Oh yes, let's take a look at our bracket. Open things up. It was Sandbox with a very nice 3-game win after a close game number 1 over Keith, who will drop down to the lower bracket. Sweet with a phenomenal performance, one of the most intellectual, most intelligent performances we've seen here so far, with a great build in game number 3. Lucas just running right through Aslan, and of course right now we're on that Dominic and Samuel matchup. But coming up on the back half of our first round, Morton with his 4th World Finals appearance.
Wow.
Moogie versus Vitor, and the one I'm really pumped about today, KK and Mohamed Light.
Of course, I mean, you got the consensus greatest player in the world, but KK is a fan favorite and a favorite of pros out there, not just because of the great guy that he is, but he's always been exceptional. I mean, the first time that we ever heard his name was back when Juicy was winning $50,000, and they kept telling us over and over, KK is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and that was already, what, 4-ish years ago, and here he is at our World Finals. That's going to be an exciting one, and then to round out the day, you heard AC say it at the top of the show, good friends, but maybe turned rivals between Pandora and Air Surfer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw that lower bracket, Aslan awaiting his opponent for the lower side of things. And if you are just joining us right now or forgot already, game number 1, it was Samuel Basoto taking the win here over Dominic, over Doom. And now we're going into game number 2 in just a couple of moments. And of course, Aslan doesn't know who he has yet. And honestly, I don't know who he'd rather face at this point.
I mean, that is a phenomenal point that you make. I mean, I think if you look at what has happened so far, I probably still would like to go to Doom. He's been just a little bit more predictable. And so here is exactly what we saw in game number 1. This is the very end of that game where it looked like there might be a second for Dominic to pop back into this, but not really. We knew Sam was going to lock it down. Those miners were just brilliant.
The miners were brilliant. The poison work on defense, slowing down that balloon. And yes, you do get this final freeze in, and that's the first time the freeze really got in effectively on an offensive push. We didn't see the freeze. There was one great opportunity early on to get back in the game. Not enough elixir for that freeze. Didn't happen, so just one step behind in game number 1. Will he get that step back in game 2?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love about watching pros play this game. You know, one of the things we talked about sometimes is Mohamed Light does certain things that might seem unorthodox, but then you watch him take the tower there. So I think we are actually hopping into game here in just a moment. We have both of our players at the stage. And there we go. Game number 2. All the drama behind us. Just back to good old-fashioned Clash Royale.
And game 2 starts similarly to the version that we got rid of, with a Royal Ghost in the back on one side, but Dominic now going with EQ to open things up.
And we see guards, and we see a baby dragon here early on. Samuel Basoto, though, maybe going, I'm not changing up too much. I'm sticking with the same 3 so far.
Look, it's a strong deck no matter what, and it's certainly that Lava Hound deck isn't the only good matchup for it. Cannon Cart does get on tower.
There we go. Early shots for Samuel.
And just going to go ahead and relax on this Mega Minion single swing, and now changing lanes is the Brazilian.
Doom does have the lead on that right-hand side, 25-79 to 26-28, but the couple Spear Goblin stab come in. Samuel back in the lead.
EQ plus arrows this time for Doom. So he does have some more powerful damage spells for the towers, and of course, the ability to work a little bit up in the air, but not, of course, the most powerful of our troop damage spells on either one.
You see they're stacking up in this left-hand lane as that EQ cycled on the right-hand side. Guards doing a perfect job against that Royal Ghost, and we'll see how Sam wants to respond here.
It does feel like he's still running the Executioner.
Yeah, I know. We both were looking for that Magic Archer to get on top of that bomb tower, but decides not to do it. And Goblin's getting more value once again.
Ewiz goes down. Is this going to be a Royal? No, it's Hog Rider.
It's Hog Rider.
Wow. And that Hog getting right to tower. NATO perfectly timed, but tanking for the Baby Dragon and the Mega Minion, so forced to play in the opposite direction as Samwell.
But look at that, aggressive at the bridge. Barbell comes in right behind. Nice play there on both sides, but Doom coming out at least on top of that interaction while Sam is still in the lead. 18:02 to 24:12. An aggressive Golden Knight at the bridge. This could be huge, Rich.
And it's Lava Hound. Golden Knight all over that tower. And just right into the same lane is the Lava Hound, so Lava Hog back. Looks like both players just deciding to go ahead and run back the same decks. Lava Hound plus Hog Rider push. Executioner there, ready for it all. Cannon Cart to hold. Do you NATO the Hog in or out? No, neither way. He just DPS that thing down quick.
13 seconds remaining here, and a lot of damage needed for Doom, so he decides to use that Golden Knight to kite everything back. Executioner doing it in style.
Wow.
3, 2, 1.
Can it do it?
Tower
no,
not
it
down.
Cannot. Samwell wins the run back and rights the ship.
And that has got to just be the craziest emotional up and down for both of these competitors. I don't really envy either of them. Yes, Samuel does pick up the win again, so I'm sure he's still happy, but I can't imagine how it feels for Doom right now.
Yeah, that's got to be a rough one, but you know, I don't know if he thought that he would have won it the first time around either. It was a pretty lockdown matchup either way, so we don't know how he feels. Maybe we'll find out how Samuel feels. Josh, what do you got for us?
Well, again, congratulations for the game number 2 victory. To go through all those emotions but still come out on top, how does it feel?
Parabéns mais uma vez por ganhar o segundo jogo, todas essas emoções, como você se sente?
Foi bem estranho, mas ainda bem que eu venci de novo e eu tô muito feliz.
It was quite weird, but it's good that I won again. I'm very happy.
Absolutely. Congratulations again. Back to the casters.
Quite weird, I think, is the only thing you can say there.
Yeah.
You know, he's got to feel good to have pulled it out on the back end. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of the action there from this last one. And, you know, it does feel like maybe they made an agreement to run the decks back, or they just both did. Not really sure how that went down.
It does seem like that was the case, not 100%. And if that was the case, I think Doom would probably be even more frustrated knowing that he was already in not a good matchup. But, you know, if that's the situation you're in, you didn't repeat a card, technically you have to go back into the situation that you drew up. But obviously probably not the prettiest way that it went down, but here we are. This is the push at the end. You see Sam throw up the CRL #1 here in just a moment. He knows he has it locked down, even though you and I got a little nervous for just a second.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot on the board there that felt like maybe it could slide on in at the last second, but once that Hog Rider got evaporated, there was no chance.
Yeah, the Hog Rider not getting on top of the tower, not getting that big time swing in, meant it was all over for Doom. Well, kind of, just in the upper bracket. He's still got a life to give, and it will be going up against Aslan, I do believe. Yep. So we have our first 2 lower bracket matchups set, and we already know at least 4 competitors where 2 of them will no longer be here tomorrow.
And that's the crazy part. You come all this way, make it to World Finals, a potential day 1 exit. So if you thought we saw nerves earlier on, when we get down at the bottom, we'll see them big. But this might be the next big story here. Longtime friends,
yes,
Lucas X Gamer and Samuel Basoto facing off tomorrow in round 2.
Yeah, and this is funny because I was talking to our good friend Deco, and I believe he drew this up when he was predicting, and that is exactly the situation you do not want to be in as a Brazilian caster. They will live and die by their players, and unfortunately for him, one of them will be sent down in a little bit, and probably for a lot of people out there, I think they're 2 of the biggest favorites and the biggest names in the game.
Oh, sure. Definitely 2 top-tier players who know each other exceptionally well. So many hours of practice on the same side, so I'd be very curious to see how they sort that one out on stage. And then you talk about that lower bracket side of things. Man, the elimination bracket on day #1, we saw some some nerves up there. You saw Sandbox's finger twitching and shaking in that game,
Yeah.
able to pull it out, but talk about how these 4 guys will feel playing later today.
I mean, it's one of the things where last year so many people weren't happy about the first day being single elimination and what that meant, so here we go. Next year, 2022, we adapt, we evolve, we listen, we give you a life to give in day number 1, but that doesn't mean that you're safe on day number 1. 4 players will be eliminated today, and I guess, you know, if I flew all the way across the world and you gave me $20,000, I would just go back home and I wouldn't feel too bad about it, but that's me, that's not them.
You wouldn't feel terrible, but if you're saying, hey, I had to win 1 of 2 matches to make that 30,000, I think I'd prefer that a little bit. But you know what? We'll get to those matches later today. Right now, we have match number 5 on its way. Jackson, take us away.
Introducing the hardest working Clash Royale player and a 4-time world finalist, Morten.
So what I really like about Clash Royale is a really fun and speedy game, so you can play it everywhere. It's also my dream job, so I'm pretty happy to be here and also creating content for the game. And yeah, it's a really great opportunity which I have. There might be a ton of surprises. If I win this competition, for sure I will donate like something to charity to support people which deserve more than me, in my opinion. I'm ready and I'm coming for the World Finals.
In a David and Goliath situation, making it here through the last chance qualifier, Ender G.
Mi nombre del juego es Ender G y soy de Venezuela. La verdad es que trato de no ponerme nervioso, de jugar lo más tranquilo posible y enfocarme puro en la partida, con full confianza de que puedo ganar lo que sea, y creo que eso ha sido una de las claves que he llegado aquí. Disfruto mucho el juego casual, que a veces es un poco estresante todo lo que tiene que ver con competitivo, pero me gusta mucho. Simplemente que gane el mejor.
And what a fascinating matchup we have here, as Juicy J said, tied for the world record with LCOP, 4-time world finalist, and Morten up against a guy who has some experience in competitive play, did some back in No Tilt League Special Edition against you as well, and Ender G.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Morten is in a good position no matter who he plays. He is so talented, so collected, so calm. And on the opposite side, Ender, this is not the matchup you want. You don't want the guy that's been there 4 times. You want the guy who's fresh, who you can actually have a shot with when it comes to nerves. Right here, Morten, he doesn't get nervous.
Yeah, the most experienced stage player here at the game. And as you guys might see, Ender G playing from home, not able to make it here to Helsinki for this one. So as a reminder, there is fair play in effect. More on that later. Let's jump right in to our game number 1. And you hear the crowd response when Morten was announced, not just one of the best players in the game, but one of the most popular players in the community.
Yeah, everybody loves him. He's been streaming so much, 8 hours a day, probably an over-exaggeration, but a lot of the time. And he just has a great standing in the community with just about everyone.
And so Golden Knight on both sides to open up, and the executioner for Morten. It's interesting because Ender does play some lava, but usually as a snipe against cycle players, so maybe Morten going with this Xe variation early on, even though that's not necessarily what Ender does in game 1.
Yeah, right here, it is going to be an interesting matchup. We do see possibly the Drill, but it still could be RG from Morten, still looking like Drill. And on the opposite end, Ender, you do have to think that he's leaning towards RG.
Yeah, with those zappies in tow, certainly feels that direction. Ender and Morten pretty far apart so far in solo earnings. Morten 74,000 earnings so far as a solo player on top of what he did as a teams player. Ender, the 20,000 he's guaranteed so far, his first bag as a competitive Clash Royale player.
140 in the game. Morten has shown that he has used the Drill. Ender still has not shown his win condition. Right there, the Golden Knight does get the dash on top of the Witch, but because the Golden Knight was placed just in time, it was able to protect it.
Royal Ghost takes care of business, picked up here by the Giant Skeleton as we have a minute 20 remaining in our regulation period, a few seconds away from double elixir time. And You know, with that 3-card cycle, that drill will start coming out faster and faster. Who do you give the advantage to, though, against this larger deck as we get later in the game?
Wow, and right there, the Ram Rider comes down. So because it's Ram Rider, I think I would still have to lean for Morten. If it was RG, that's when it gets really weird because we haven't seen the spell. Now with Ram Rider, the cannons, the ice spirits, the log delays, if he uses the lightning or earthquake, will be able to come out. Morten, I think, does have a strong advantage right now.
And now play transferring to the left-hand side of the board as the Golden Knight will pick up the Royal Ghost. A little chip damage from the log. First on that side for Morten.
Executioner does lock onto the Hog, so it won't be able to take out the Golden Knight just yet, but a clean swing of the axe, and it does clean up all the troops. Right now, Endergy's he's only just trying to stack. He's not trying to go for offense. He's waiting till late in double, late in overtime, and then he could even just wait till triple elixir, just because it's hard to get past these kind of defenses.
Poison in, and now that Ram Rider is a nice path, but back to a cannon again is Morten to pick up that Ram Rider. Log no longer in cycle, though. Golden Knight to clean up and not let that connection happen.
1:55 left. We have hit overtime. 24:89 to 23:41. Only 150 HP separating the two players. Morten has done a brilliant job on defense, but Endergy, he's just staying in there. This is what he wants.
73% win rate in his golden ticket attempt plays, so certainly put up some good numbers overall. And look, he might not be on paper the guy you think is the #1 or #2, but he did make it to World Finals. That's an accomplishment in itself.
Ghost will need to be defended. We do see the Golden Knight. Will he choose to go in with the dash? It will be able to hit a lot of troops if he uses it. And there we go. We do see the dash able to hit all the troops that he was looking for, and the Executioner to clean it up.
Little zappy chip on the right-hand side, 10 seconds away from triple elixir, and we'll see how much Morten takes advantage of that 3-card cycle with the drill as we get to the end. And this Mother Witch going into the bridge fight here, maybe opening up an opportunity for him.
Yeah, I'm really shocked that we have not seen Ender's final card. I'm thinking it has to be a small spell, but those are going to do well against the drill. So still just continuing to cycle all his main troops and not that last card.
And keep in mind, no big spell here for Morten. So if we're talking spell cycle there at the very end, going to be a tall order there against Poison, as the Poison does finally give Ender the lead with 33 seconds left.
Executioner placed down. He is going to try and win the bridge battle. We are going to see drill after drill after drill, and logs followed as well.
Does Morten get the connection? And he does! Big time connection! 18 seconds left, and he takes the 400 HP lead.
That Executioner plus the log plus the second Executioner is doing work. 1893 to 1392. Morten should take this game.
Wow, this felt like it was slipping out of his fingers. Morten gets the great NATO connection with that Golden Knight. GG, well played. Morten wins game #1.
I mean, it was anybody's game until the very final 30 seconds, but just one play was required. A brilliant defense was the Exi NATO, the second Exi coming out, and then the drill on the tower.
Wow, what a great come from behind. Stayed in the pocket, did Morten, didn't lose his cool. You know, you see so many times, even at a high level with the nerves there, the NATO being placed a tile or two off and not chaining that Golden Knight to the tower. We saw that in the waning weeks of the LCQ as well happen. Morten not making that mistake, getting on tower, big time win.
Yeah, I just love how he played that game, and right here we are going to go into the replay. This is going to be the moment that we all loved seeing. The Golden Knight does get the dash on top of all the troops, on top of all the towers, getting it down to 1450. Just needs one more defense, and it was those Xes plus logs plus the second Xe.
And now we get into a really interesting question as we start game #2, and that's that deck picking portion. Morten has been working with Julesy, who helped lead Mohamed Light to a second-place finish at Worlds last year, known for being a solid coach, but Morten's up there on his own, and this has always been sort of the question, is how does Morten make those picks into Game 2 and Game 3 and beyond? On the other side of it, Ender is known for being a kind of by-the-numbers picker. Log is out, you play bait. NATO's out, you play hog. They're both off the board.
Yeah, I think for Morten, though, you do have to give, obviously, with the Game 1 victory, the advantage goes to Morten. But still, when you've won Game 1, that's what you're really preparing for. You don't want to have to prepare for that Game 1 loss.
Sure.
You want to set yourself up where you can just win Game 2 after. Ender, obviously, he did lose Game 1. He is by the numbers, and so this is obviously a very tough spot for him.
And just to show how well-known Morten is, a lot of our votes today have been fairly close from the community, 55-45. Even if you felt like maybe they were probably a larger margin, Morten, no questions there, 74% voting for Morten in that matchup.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't even more. I could have seen 80, I could have seen 85, I could have seen 90. So it does not shock me that we did see that 70.
And taking their time here, 2 minutes between each game to go ahead and make those deck picks, make those changes. And of course, you know, we were talking about Ender being kind of a down-the-line deck picker. If you're in Ender's corner, are you going hog, are you going bait, or are you trying to theory craft something totally different?
I think you always have to go with the theory craft. I think that's always going to be the spot. And I really do think that when you have a month to prepare, a week to prepare, you can set yourself up for a Game 2.
Well, let's go ahead and check things out as we jump into game number 2. On the deck picking side for Morten, it's pretty well understood that Julesy will have a clear plan for him in games 1 and game 2. The questions then do rise. If we do make it to game 3, what happens? But at the moment, expect some pretty solid work here out of the duo.
Ender defending with the Mighty Miner. He is going to go Mighty Miner Drill instead of the Mighty Miner Bait. We saw Bait all the time when it was the Giant Skeleton and the Mirror running rampant throughout the meta. But because of that nerf, it's no longer as scary as it used to be.
And you see Log and NATO both out, so Ender going Drill here. And those spears get a nice little buff too with Log being off the board. We'll see what the small spell situation here is for the German SK gaming player.
A lot of pressure coming in from Ender G. Morten will be able to scar me on top of the Spear Goblins and doesn't get the split. I'm sure he was looking to try and split them onto the Drill, onto the Spear Goblins at the bridge, but doesn't work out that time. Forced to use the Bar Barrel as well.
Lots to feed that Skeleton King here with the bats and the Skarmy as well. Mortar comes out. This deck was very popular about 2-3 months ago, has fallen a bit out of favor, but of course everybody knows Morten likes running Miner.
That's right. Anytime he can fit a Miner in the deck, you know it's going to be out there. Fire Spirit does jump onto absolutely nothing, so an unfortunate interaction for Ender. Inferno Tower is going to come out as well as the Snowball, so we could see a little bit of pressure depending on what's next, or we could just see the reset. And there we go. We do see the pressure. Miner in the back to take out the Spear Goblins.
What a Miner. What a Miner. Getting on the tower, taking off the spears, connecting that Musketeer, and Morten opens up a big lead with 1:13 left in regulation.
No activation from the Mighty Miner. Is he going to be able to place a card in time? The Skarmy does come out, and the Mighty Miner will get the activation. So it is a 1-for-3, a good spot right there, but obviously still down 750 HP.
And Skarmy just really shuts down that Mighty Miner in these situations. Gotta wonder if maybe Morten was putting Ender on bait with that one. Of course, has the Bar Barrel plus the Skarmy. Works out well here too.
Skeleton King on top of the Drill. The Miner in. Okay, the Miner in the back, not going to do any damage. The Snowball on defense from Ender. And so 700 still separating the two players. Will he try to get the activation? Bats and Spear Goblins will clean this up nicely.
That Musketeer, though, certainly a factor in this one and playing the Skarmy way in the back. Snowball to clean up, Bar Barrel well-timed, and keeping that Muskie alive except for those Spear Goblins.
We just see continuing to use the Skeleton King in the back, trying to set up for that one good push. He just can't set up the right push. And right here, this might be it. Musketeer fully healthy.
Did not get the Musketeer with the Fireball. Just a half tile off there. This could be a whole lot of trouble. Bats to pick up the Miner. That's going to be some significant damage. Mortar, can it break through and connect?
The bats on defense from Ender are so troublesome. Right there, the Fireball does go on top of most of the bats, but still there. Musketeer to protect the Mortar. Left side almost got damaged, but not quite. And this game is getting kind of close. It's getting closer as this game goes on.
That Musketeer just a little bit too close to the Mortar, giving value for that Fireball. So Ender getting a nice little value play to get himself back in this game.
Yeah, and the bats on defense from Ender are getting value every time. But on the opposite end, Morten, it's never getting value. He's always able to snowball bats plus something, and that's just so dangerous when Morten has to defend in the triple elixir moments.
And really good patience there not to pop the ability on the Skeleton King, knowing that with the Musketeer's support, it would survive that fight with the Mighty Miner. And so now it's time to pressure the opposite direction. Snowball does not take care of all those skeletons with this drill push, but a lot of damage coming in. They escape, and now it's Ender in the lead with 56 seconds left.
Again, getting aggressive, 54 seconds left. Skeleton King's ability is 50%.